What was the most amount of partners you've had at one point?
Um, eight.
Eight?
They were
Okay.
first off.
What?
First off, wow.
What?
I
Eight?
so you have to find your number. You have to find your number. That's like my absolutely that's out of line number. But I was not sexual with all these partners. Don't be like, oh my god, this lady's crazy. No, all the partners are sexual.
He wanted to have other women. He had said that when we first got married. Mm-hmm. So I knew that was one of his goals. And when it started to happen at year 12 of our marriage, I said, well, I would like to get in on that too, because I think it's just fair is fair.
Damn. I don't need no one to save me. I was born to be the greatest. All that time in that basement, all that time isn't wasted. Rapping getting faded. I just wanna tell my mom that I made it. Just wanna be the topic of the conversation. Used to rock the gold plated. Now I'm wearing gold chains like I'm famous.
Challenges. Have there been any challenges? And if so, what has been some of the biggest challenges that you have faced becoming into the poly lifestyle?
I think the worst thing that's happened so far.
Oh man, you know when somebody laugh, it may get bad.
No, I thought about it because you would think I would say that people judge me, and I actually don't care about that. It really is being, if you don't have anybody to talk to or relate to, that is very low. Because if you don't, like, let's say something happens with my partners or whatever, I, as a person who started, I didn't have anyone to go to. So I didn't know that there was like groups and platforms I can go to. And then what happened was, as I was trying to figure out, like, okay, what happens if one of your partners is mad and the other one's not? Or if I'm sometimes taking emotions over to my other partner and they don't think that's fair. Like, what happened? What do? I had no one to communicate with. And if I did, it would be a monogamous reaction, which would be, okay, well, why don't you just get one or pick one? Or okay, who cares? Just pick one, pick that one or that one. It was always like, choose one. Or you get people who maybe were jealous of the fact that you had that. That is very plausible. Or people who just didn't understand and didn't know how to deal with that. So there was no one to relate to me. So that kind of sucked. That was a little bit hard because this can be lonely. And we have talked about this before, even in the poly realm, I am still special in my little realm. Even in the poly world, I'm very strange. So that can be lonely too. I would say that.
Okay, so when you say strange, expound on that if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Okay, so most people hear about polygamy. They hear about polyamorous, which is build your own relationship, basically. And then there is polyandry, and you don't have to stay in any one of those. You can transition. It just depends on who your partners are. Usually, like if I had two, female partners, I'd probably be polyamorous. If I had, if I was with a man and he had the woman, I'd probably be polygamous. And a lot of times I can switch between polyamorous and polyandry, which is a woman with more than one man. And what happens now is that you see a lot of people who are polyandry, which is one with more than one man, and their partners usually are bisexual, and they're usually poly. Oh. Yeah, it's a lot. But for me, what makes me a little different is that, depending on the situation, I can be considered polyandry. I date heterosexual black men most of the time. Yeah, basically. And they are a lot of times monogamous. Starting, yeah. So that's not normal for someone who's in poly. Usually they only date poly people. Really are big on just dating poly people. I don't restrict myself to that. And so it just makes it a little weird. So if someone heard that, they'd be like, oh, and your partners aren't bisexual? And I say no. And they're like, oh, that's weird. That's never worked. So even in poly, they think I'm a little bit like, oh, how are you doing that? And so it's hard to relate to other people who don't have that same dynamic.
Yeah,
Or
I
at
mean,
least successful.
well, I mean, I would say, like, I think, and I'm sure that there's like other men in the chat would think that, typically when a man, when a man gets with another man, the woman is no longer, like, women are no longer attracted to that man if that man has been intimate with another man. So you say that it's weird on your end. I think it's the latter. Because I'm saying now, because like I don't know too many women. I don't know too many women here at Vega. If you still here, I would love for you to chime in on this. Only because I just know that if a man is intimate with another man, typically women are not sexually attracted to that man in that way. Typically, I mean,
you would be surprised at how many
Wow.
women are secretly thinking that they would rather have their partner. And then this is one of the things about polyandry that I tend to that one right is that I think that a lot of women in that position don't want to compete with other women. So if they do find a partner that actually is bisexual, when they have each other as partners, they're not competing for a woman. They have their man partner and then they have their woman partner, and they're fulfilled on the man's end. And the woman's not competing with any other women.
Yeah, I just think
There's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of them, sir. It's a whole.
I'm floored here, but I'm just saying.
We're back to The Factor Uncensored. Thank you for joining us for the second half of The Factor tonight. We're diving into the very fascinating world of polyamory, which we've done here before on The Factor. You may have seen a lot of relationships where men have had multiple women on their arms. My next guests are flipping the switch a bit. Now, Kenya K. Stevens is at the center of her relationship. You're looking at him there. Family portrait. Look at God. She's married to two men, Tiger and Carl, and they will be sharing part of their lives on TLC's new series, Seeking Brother Husband. They join me now in the studio, and of course, the premiere will be this Sunday. So explain to me what's going on here. Obviously, these two ain't getting together. It's just you and you, and that's it.
Yes, they call this a poly V. So I'm in the.
So, all right. What Isaiah just mentioned, and I know he was tongue-in-cheek comment, but we literally just spoke about this, Ms. Polly, about how the two men are not, and nothing is going on with them, but
That's
with
right.
her, they're doing their thing.
Right. So actually,
and then she also mentioned the V. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but she mentioned the V. Can you just explain?
yeah. So V is basically like a V symbol. She's the glue that holds them together. Basically, if there was no her, there would be no them in this pod. And I call pod basically the relationship grouping because it can look different.
Mm-hmm.
So the V, is like the letter V. She's at the base, and she has connected to one, and then she's connected to the other. But they're not together in a romantic way. They may have a brotherhood or whatnot, but they're not together as like romantic way.
And I'm with my husband, Carl. We've been together almost 30 years. And my husband, Tiger, and I have been together almost 10 years.
So
wow.
When you say husband, though, is that allowed? Is that allowed under the law? Or are you talking about spiritual husband one, legal husband the other?
Yes.
How does that work?
This is my legal husband, and we added this husband by having a spiritual connection ceremony.
Okay. And so how did you guys come to this situation?
Well,
yeah, it's kind of complicated, but we had genuine feelings for other people, and Kenya and I talked about like, hey, I'm feeling some feelings of love for someone. She had the same thing. We talked about it. We said, well, why don't we actually explore this and see where it leads? And that's how we got into it.
Yeah.
And how did you open your mind, though, as a husband, as a man, to that?
Yeah, at first I was close to it. So when she brought to me that she wanted to date other men and that she should be able to do that.
But she didn't say, I want to leave you.
No,
she
no,
just
no.
said, I want to date other men.
Just
Right.
wanted to date. And at first I was close to that because
Right.
I had never really heard like a married woman dating multiple men. Like, where does that come from? I've heard of polygyny.
You have
One
lost
man,
your
many
damn
women.
mind.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wanted to have other women. He had said that when we first got married. So I knew that that was one of his goals. And when it started to happen at year 12 of our marriage, I said, well, I would like to get in on that too, you know, because I think it's just fair is fair.
So year 12.
Okay. All right. So kind of want to stop it right there. A couple of things. So she knew going into the marriage, that he had wanted to be with other women, or he was attracted to other women. So with her knowing that, and she said it wasn't until after 12 years that they were married, where I guess she said that she wanted to get involved with another man. Now let me ask you, because you mentioned that you had your husband and your boyfriend or your partner, living together at under the same roof as you. Now,
Yeah.
how was that like kind of at the beginning? Because the gentleman on the left, I forgot his name, the one with the dreads, he said he was kind of closed off to it. Was your situation similar?
When I was actually married, I was still monogamous per se, so it was a little bit different.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it. I'm not ashamed of my situation, but it opens up the door for a whole bunch of questions. But I was kind of stuck between two friends. So they were friends. They had been in school together, did football together. So they had already had a brotherhood per se already built. So when it just so happened that I was no longer going to be with my husband anymore, we stayed in the same home and things like that. My other boyfriend, at the time, he was like, you know what, things are changing. I had got pregnant and everything, so we ended up just being like, hey, listen, let's just all kind of be in the same house and see how we all function together. Obviously, it was my idea. It worked. It worked so well. To be so honest with you, it worked so well. They would go out and do things. I would be home with their children. One of the grandparents stayed with us. It worked very well. People went to work. It really, really worked really well. There wasn't really any conflict because they already built something. And I think that's one of this is another subject. We probably won't open this door, but
No, it's all good.
Brother husbands. Most of the time when you see it in a society, the best way it works is with brothers. Women marry brothers, real brothers, because they already have a bond. Men don't usually make bonds unless it's like through college or something like that. They don't make bonds like that after a certain age with other men. And the bonds that work are the ones that they build over, like you said, you've been in like war together. Those really tight bonds are formed over the experiences together. And so when they have that, for them, it's not anything they think about. That's the person they love, they care about, and they'll do anything for.